So, Uruguay is seen as this digital superstar in Latin America, right? A real leader. But how on earth did nearly every single citizen end up having their data stolen? From the government itself. We're about to dive into a pretty stunning report by researcher Alberto Daniel Hill that just blows the lid off a massive national security failure. It really exposes this huge gap between Uruguay's digital dream and, a devastating reality.
I mean, think about this paradox. On one side, you've got this nation that's praised all over the world for its digital progress. And on the other, a systemic cyber attack so massive, it basically brought the country to its digital knees. So that's the real question we're digging into. How does a supposed digital leader fall this hard?
Okay, so to really get our heads around how this all went down, we first got to look at what was stolen. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a simple hack. This was a full-on digital heist. We're talking about the digital identity of an entire nation. Just look at the scale of this thing. 3.2 million records from the National Identification System were leaked. In a country of about 3.5 million people, that is basically everybody. This isn't just numbers on a screen. It's the digital DNA of an entire population, out in the open. And, this wasn't just some random leaky server. The breach was systemic. It hit the National ID Registry, the Ministry of Social Development, and get this, even AGISIC, the very agency that's supposed to be in charge of e-government and cybersecurity, was hit. This wasn't a crack in the wall. The whole foundation was rotten. But out of everything that was taken, this next number, this is the one that should really scare you. 30,000 National ID PKI certificates. And they weren't just stolen. Their passwords were also cracked. This right here is the key to the entire digital kingdom. And the attackers didn't just pick the lock, they walked off with the master key.
So you're probably asking, what in the world is a PKI certificate? Well, think of it as your official, legally binding digital identity. In Uruguay, it has the same weight as your handwritten signature. It's how you do everything securely online, accessing over 190 government services, from filing your taxes to checking your health records. It is the absolute bedrock of trust in their digital government.
Okay, but here is the absolute kicker. The report from Alberto Daniel Hill makes it clear the passwords were already cracked. What that means is the hackers didn't need to be some geniuses breaking military-grade encryption. Nope. They basically strolled right in the front door, all thanks to some really basic security failures, like weak passwords and just plain bad security hygiene. This was not some unstoppable force. It was a completely preventable disaster. Okay, so we've talked about the data, but what does this actually mean for people on the ground? This is where the digital crime spree spills over and creates very, very real chaos. See, when a criminal has your official digital identity, the consequences are anything but virtual. The best way to think about this is like a stolen digital passport. With your compromised certificate, a criminal can impersonate you perfectly online. They can sign legal contracts as you, get into your bank accounts, apply for loans. They can essentially take over your entire legal and financial life. They become you, digitally. And the fallout from that, it's just devastating. We're talking mass identity theft and forgery on a national scale, fraudulent legal documents, bank accounts drained, private records exposed. But it's not just about the money. The real damage here is the total and complete erosion of public trust. How can you ever trust the system again after a failure this catastrophic? Which brings us back to that big question. How does a supposed digital leader let something like this happen? Well, the answer seems to be a massive, dangerous gap between the country's ambition and its actual security reality. A report from the Inter-American Development Bank really hits the nail on the head. It says Uruguay's cyberspace protection efforts have not kept pace with digitization. Basically, they raced ahead to build this amazing digital society, but they completely forgot to invest in protecting it. It's like building a glass mansion, but forgetting to install any locks on the doors. And boy, can you see the consequences of that gap when you look at the numbers. The sheer volume of cyber incidents just exploded. It went from under 5,000 in 2023 to more than 14,000 just a year later. This isn't some slow drip, you guys. This is a dam bursting.
To put that into perspective, we're talking about a cyber attack hitting the government every 30 minutes in 2024. Every 30 minutes. It's just this relentless, non-stop assault on the nation's infrastructure. And the defenses, well, they just weren't there to stop it.
And look, these attacks aren't just random acts of chaos. A specific group calling itself Uruguayo 1337 has taken responsibility. And this isn't some kid in a basement. They're part of this international network that's kind of a mix of political hacktivism and straight up selling your data for cash, which makes them incredibly dangerous and persistent. So, yeah, the situation is pretty dire. But the good news is the report doesn't just point out the problems. It actually lays out a pretty clear blueprint for how Uruguay can start to fight its way back and, hopefully, secure its digital future. All right, first things first, you gotta stop the bleeding. This is the emergency response plan. Step 1, immediately revoke all 30,000 of those compromised certificates. Shut them down. Step 2, notify every single person affected and give them clear, actionable advice on what to do. And step 3, launch a deep, full-scale forensic investigation to figure out exactly how this happened so it never happens again.
But look, patching up the holes isn't going to cut it long term. The strategy has to be bigger. You have to modernize the entire digital ID system, bring in things we all use like multi-factor authentication. You also have to seriously invest in your cybersecurity agencies and your experts. And finally, you have to educate the entire population to create a much stronger nationwide security culture.
When you step back, this whole story in Uruguay is really a cautionary tale for all of us, no matter where we live. It forces us to ask a really critical question. In our global race to digitize absolutely everything, is our progress moving way faster than our ability to actually protect it? Because what this whole thing really shows is that being a digital leader means absolutely nothing if you don't have digital resilience to back it up.